The year 632. CE, a room where silence speaks louder than words, where every breath tells a story of hope, struggle, and ultimate submission to Allah. This isn't just a story about an ending. This is a revelation about beginnings. The Prophet Muhammad wasn't just a messenger. He was a beacon of transformation, a man who turned a fractured society into a unified community. And now, as his life approached its final chapter, something extraordinary was about to unfold. In just the decades after Prophet Muhammad's death, over 75,000 Muslims lost their lives in battles, and the death toll kept rising as wars of succession and internal conflicts raged. Over 50 years, the Islamic world saw some of the bloodiest battles in history. Millions of lives lost in a struggle for power, leadership, and identity. All of this, just because of one question: who would lead the Muslim Ummah after Prophet Muhammad? The consequences were devastating, but they shaped the future of Islam in ways you'll never forget. Stick with me, because what happened in the years following the Prophet's death isn't just history. It's a lesson for every Muslim today. As we explore these pivotal moments in our history, if you feel moved by the story, a simple like can help share these important lessons with others. And if you're seeking more insights like this, we'd be honored to have you with us on this path, uncovering truths that matter. After the death of Prophet Muhammad, the Muslim world didn't just grieve, it fractured. The very first challenge was the wars of apostasy, Ridda Wars, where hundreds of thousands of people across the Arabian Peninsula turned away from Islam. The sudden loss of leadership sparked chaos, and leaders like Abu Bakr al-Siddiq were forced to rally the remaining Muslims to fight to preserve the faith. Over 50,000 lives were lost in these battles alone. That's more than the combined number of soldiers in many of the biggest conflicts in history, all because of one thing: a crisis of leadership following the Prophet's death. And yet, this was only the beginning. As the dust settled, something even more shocking occurred. The very companions who were closest to the Prophet now found themselves on opposite sides of future wars, clashing in the name of Islam. The first civil war, the fitna, erupted, and Muslims fought Muslims, driven by deep ideological divisions. The death toll skyrocketed. By the end of the Battle of Siffin alone, over 70,000 Muslims had died, with no clear victor, but deepened divisions. The assassination of the third caliph, Uthman ibn Affan, in 656 CE, is one of the most shocking events in Islamic history. His death not only marked the beginning of a civil war, but also signaled the collapse of unity in the early Muslim community. Uthman was murdered by rebels from Egypt, who were angry over his perceived favoritism and mismanagement, leading to widespread chaos. After Uthman's assassination, the first fitna, civil war, erupted between the followers of Ali ibn Abi Talib and the forces loyal to Uthman's family. The Battle of the Camel and the Battle of Siffin followed, both resulting in massive casualties. Tens of thousands of Muslims were killed, highlighting how fragile the unity of the Muslim Ummah was, even within a generation of Prophet Muhammad's passing. Over 70,000 Muslims died in the Battle of Siffin alone, a tragedy that was driven by personal, political, and tribal loyalties rather than unity under a single leader. The establishment of the Umayyad Caliphate in 661 CE, following the death of Ali ibn Abi Talib, marked a dramatic shift from the egalitarian vision of Prophet Muhammad to a hereditary monarchy. The Umayyads, led by Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan, turned the caliphate into a dynastic system, forever altering the governance of the Islamic world. Within just a few decades, the Umayyad Empire stretched from Spain to India, making it the largest empire the world had seen up until then. But this expansion came at a great cost. Ruthless suppression of dissent, economic inequality, and the rise of tribalism that ultimately fractured the unity of the early Muslim community. Under the Umayyads, Muslims witnessed the first instances of caliphs being chosen based on bloodline rather than the collective choice of the Ummah, a direct departure from the Prophet's example of leadership. Shocking fact, the Battle of Karbala, 680 CE, which occurred under the Umayyad regime, saw the tragic death of Husayn ibn Ali, the Prophet's grandson. This event is seen as the ultimate manifestation of Muslim division, sparking the permanent Sunni-Shia split that endures to this day. As the bloodshed continued, new powers began to rise, with the Umayyads and Abbasids emerging as dynastic rulers. The very foundations of the Muslim world were being transformed, but the price was steep: the loss of unity. In just a few generations, the Muslim world was no longer united under one leader, but splintered into warring factions. The Umayyad Caliphate, in its quest for dominance, conquered vast lands, from North Africa to Spain, but internal divisions and conflicts kept the empire unstable. The Abbasids, who eventually overthrew the Umayyads, also faced their own power struggles, resulting in further wars and instability. During the first 100 years after Prophet Muhammad's death, more than 200,000 Muslims died in wars and conflicts. These wars weren't just over territory. They were a direct consequence of a lack of unified leadership and a fractured community. But here's the most powerful and perhaps the most painful truth. These wars didn't just shape the world politically. They changed the very fabric of the Muslim Ummah. The divisions that began right after the Prophet's death created a lasting legacy that still affects Muslim communities today. We see sectarian divides between Sunni and Shia Muslims. We see regional conflicts and even political turmoil within modern Muslim-majority countries. The chaos that followed the Prophet's death laid the foundation for many of the challenges Muslims face in the world today. More than 2 million Muslims have been affected by civil wars and sectarian violence in just the last century alone. And all of it traces back to those early divisions after the Prophet's passing. This isn't just history, it's a warning. The Prophet left us a powerful message of unity, of following the Quran and his Sunnah. But when we look at the events that followed his death, we see the disastrous consequences of division. If you're someone who feels a deep connection to this mission of uncovering the truth and reflecting on the lessons of our past, then you too are part of the journey we're on. By supporting this channel, you're helping us continue this mission. May Allah guide us all to unity, peace, and understanding, and may He allow us to stay true to the message of Prophet Muhammad, now and forever. Ameen. If you're with us on this mission, like and support us, so we can continue shedding light on the truths that shape our faith.